Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay, Atlanta's new standard in payroll. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Scott Matthews with Verusen. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Lee.
For those who don't know, tell us a little bit about Verusen. How are you serving folks?
Yeah, so what we are is we're a supply chain company that helps large companies operate their businesses and manufacturing facilities with less inventory and not increase business risk. And we do it through artificial intelligence and processing data in lots of different systems. So that's what our company does.
So how, recently there were all these issues in the supply chain, there's probably still issues. How does Verusen kind of help in that manner?
Yeah, so how we help is inventory is stored in hundreds of locations for large global companies, often named different things with different part numbers and different descriptions. And it's hard for a company to get a handle on where inventory is, when is it needed, how do you plan for it, and how do you run it with the least amount of capital to make sure that your business operates 100% of the time. And with COVID and the complications of a supply chain, it became harder for companies to have visibility into their indirect materials, which most companies, large companies, have hundreds of millions of dollars of inventory. So Verusen helps companies to have that visibility and to operate their companies with less inventory on hand without compromising a company's uptime or delivery schedules for the goods and services that they make.
So did this kind of crisis that we went through make it that much more easy for you to communicate the value? Is that when everything became clear of what you're bringing to the table?
Yeah, it definitely amplified, what the need was there before COVID, but it became even more of a requirement because lead times to buy products and services went through the roof because companies were shut down. They didn't manufacture enough. Ships were stuck in shipping lanes. And so the need went up. But, it started well before COVID as a need to minimize the investment in inventory and working capital to make companies efficient.
So can you talk about how Atlanta is important to this story and why this is the place for Verusen and other supply chain organizations to be based and to be working in?
Sure. So Atlanta is an awesome location for, 50-60% of where goods and services are made down in the Southeast. And we've drafted from technology that's resident in the Atlanta area. Georgia Tech has been a great feeding ground for us. We're partners with Georgia Tech, and we've hired lots of technologists that help us to write the artificial intelligence routines, the machine learning routines, the natural language processing routines that help us to understand the incongruencies of data and to make sense for customers. 65% of our employees are in the Atlanta metro area. It's a great place for high tech and innovation. And I have no plans on changing that investment thesis as far as being based in Atlanta. Most of our customers are in the Southeast because that's where manufacturing is most prevalent in the United States. So, man, we're the backbone is in Atlanta and the future is in Atlanta for our company because the drafting zone for people that are innovative and are able to work at high-tech companies like Verusen are plentiful, in the Atlanta area.
Now, because of Georgia's, I guess, unique economic diversity, having a port, having a well-established international airport, having those kind of university resources that you described, Do you find that Georgia is becoming a hub for supply chain and a great place for others like yourself to be based and to tap into that infrastructure that's here, and it's very business friendly, and it has so many resources that touch all aspects of supply chain and logistics?
Sure. We're inextricably linked in the supply chain, and there are many companies that are synergistic to Verusen, partners that Verusen has in the supply chain that are based in the Southeast. And it seems to be the right place at the right time with the right geographic location and the ample ground to find employees with the talent that we need. So it's very synergistic. You don't see these types of companies in the Northeast. You don't see them out West. It really is the Southeast is where supply chain is headquartered for lots of innovation in America and how we grow internationally, outside of this area.
And do you find it by having kind of being a hub for supply chain and organizations like yourselves and others, that it creates a cluster or some density where there is so much talent and people can go from one, maybe a startup in supply chain and find another opportunity pretty quickly because there's so many people doing work in that industry?
Sure. So that's one way and a correct way to look at it, Lee. The other side is, we've drafted employees from really large manufacturers in the supply chain in the Atlanta metro area that were looking to expand their abilities versus working for a $20 billion company. Let's actually take a look at an innovative startup that's disrupting something that's been going on for a long time. So I would say half of our employees have come from really large, huge companies that these employees want a different paradigm to look at and how they look at their career versus, working at a high-tech innovation company versus, Georgia Pacific or something, that's in our area. So we've drafted from that background because, having subject matter expertise is important. Having conversational knowledge is important. Having industry knowledge is important to apply the technology that we're developing. So it's actually bilaterally important on that.
So what's your backstory? Have you always been involved in supply chain and logistics?
No, I haven't. My background is helping innovative companies reach scale. So I've been a participant of a number of startups that have reached some level of scale. And, this is the right time to apply my talents to the co-founder of Verusen, Paul Noble. Paul is not leaving the company, even though I'm a new CEO to Verusen. Paul is the visionary. Paul is the product backbone of the company. And Paul and I together, with my business expertise, my go-to-market expertise, coupled with Paul's background, is the partnership that I've struck with Paul and the investors in Verusen. I mean, we're a B round company, so that means that we've raised venture capital and we're looking to grow exponentially over the next 3 to 5 years.
So, what does your roadmap look like? What do you kind of foresee in the coming year or two?
So the roadmap is to actually expand the feature set to address a wider swath of problems, so customers could use a service like Verusen to disintermediate manual process, to disintermediate manual decisioning, to disintermediate, redundancies of inventory, both on the shop floor, the plant floor, the inventory, the warehouses. And then where we're going is actually deep integration to the suppliers of those goods and services to the manufacturers that we're representing. So you're going to find us to virally grow into the suppliers, the distribution, up channels of the supply chain to provide an end-to-end solution for both suppliers, manufacturers, and the consumers of those goods and services. So we have a very rich roadmap that we'll be looking at over the next 3 to 5 years.
So who is your ideal partner or customer?
So it's Georgia Pacific is, one of our larger customers. The Southern Company, right in the Atlanta area, right, are huge customers and users of our technology. We're blessed to have very large consumer packaged goods companies, names that are in the top 3 that you would recognize. Sometimes they don't let us talk about their names. They're protective of that, but it's 3 of the top 5 consumer brands that you might see on a grocery store aisle when you shop down there. They're using our product to make more efficient decisions in the manufacturing process and lower their cost of goods sold as they look at their supply chains. So traditionally, we sell to a very large customer set that has hundreds of millions of dollars of inventory, and they're looking for ways to manage that inventory more effectively, is the ideal customer that we have. Every one of our customers is global. In some cases, we might start in another country, but the headquarters is normally in the U.S. that we've done business with so far.
So what is that kind of pain that they're experiencing where they should at least be inquiring?
So probably $1 billion company is the minimum amount of revenue that we could sell into that would realize the value and have the ability to execute on the software that we would provide to them. And if you look at verticals, it's really any vertical that makes a durable hard good, that has multiple manufacturing or plants. There are thousands of customers that are in our, I'll call it the ideal customer profile that, if properly represented and they have a desire to solve the problem that we solve, should be a customer of Verusen. It spans many different verticals that we would sell into.
And then when they're working with you, is there a story you can share? You don't have to name the name, but of, once working with you that you were able to save them some money or save them some time or make them more efficient?
One of the top 3 consumer brands that you would recognize, they don't let us use their name, has actually decreased inventory by $8 million a year by using our software and not increasing any business risk, because any plant manager can say, oh, I'm going to reduce inventory by X%, but gosh, what if a line goes down? What if something breaks or something they can't get in the supply chain? That's a bad decision to put your business at risk. So we help companies balance risk with the optimal inventory mix. But that's one customer that just implemented us in the food and beverage industry in our area.
So now what was it about this company that said, you know what, I got to find a way to be part of this team? What was it for you that, made you take this leap?
Sure. So it's an outstanding total available market, right? If you look at who we could sell to in an extreme, it's thousands of companies that have this problem of optimizing inventory across a myriad of locations, because the problem is inventory is not labeled the same thing. It's not part numbered the same thing. It's bought through different sources. It's bought on POs. It's bought through bill of materials. So I'll say it's a very inconsistent inventory management problem. And then we help harmonize that dissimilar information in a way that a customer can make really efficient decisions about, I have this part in 10 different locations. The min-max levels are this. We can run this company with far less inventory, and we help them to make that decision and to have far less inventory to continue the operations at 100% uptime. And that was an exciting opportunity because we're doing it through modern technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, and we're applying those modern disruptive technologies to a problem that, almost every company has for inventory management. So it's actually a really, really exciting opportunity that we have, Lee.
So you were excited about the market, but you were also excited about the solution.
Well, yeah, because if the product is there, and now I need to find who the customers are. My background is helping customers on go-to-market. It's trying to figure out who are the ideal customers, what are the personas that we should apply our technology to, and how do those companies make decisions, and how do they act on solving a problem. That's actually my background, and how I'm able to be a great partner with Paul, because we're pushing the accelerator down, and we're a very small company. We're a venture-backed company that has raised tens of millions of dollars to start this company, but the outcome could be really, really exciting in years to come, is why I chose to work here.
So what do you need more of? How can we help you?
Find me qualified prospects who have this problem, and this is a way to do it. Communicating through your program, but ultimately it's awareness, right? For companies like ours, that we don't have multi-million-dollar advertising budgets, we don't have multi-million-dollar marketing budgets. We're doing it through traditional methods of calling people and having conversations and telling stories about why we're successful to other customers, and that's more of what I try to do to find the right customer at the right time that has the pain that they want to solve. So that's actually my most important task, is to figure out that top of funnel work about who we can sell to and who has the best product market fit to use our products and services.
And then part of the challenge is that some of your largest customers don't want you to tell anybody that you're helping them.
It's a balance, and they want to keep that proprietary, right?
Right.
Why do I want to share that with my competitors? But ultimately, it's how high tech operates. They are customers, and I'm a vendor, but you need to move to some level of partnership and mutual benefit. So, because it's not, our company isn't the kind of thing you hire for a month and then walk away from. It's a multi-year process to reduce inventory and working capital to run your business more efficiently. And unless you have partnerships with companies with mutual trust, relationships fizzle and you won't be successful. So there are some customers that let us use their names, like the ones I've already named, and there are some customers that it's the shroud of secrecy, because it's their secret sauce about how they'll innovate and how they'll compete against their competitors.
Right. And look, a partnership is great, and being a best kept secret, could damage the partnership over time, because you need the resources to keep innovating and making what you're doing special over time.
Yeah. It's a balance, right? And we have case studies that I can publicly talk about. They're on our website. I've named the customers that allow us to talk about the mutual success that we have. It's how high tech operates. Half your customers will let you talk about it, and
right.
Half won't, and you respect that, because I'm not going to violate the trust at a strategic level on things like that. But maybe they'll speak at a conference. Maybe they'll do a private reference for us, something like that, because, they ultimately are vested in my success. Because if I'm not successful, they won't be successful with us. So there is an opportunity for marketing and publicity, and how we'll ultimately help each other at a corporate level.
Well, congratulations on all the success and momentum. If somebody wants to learn more, have a more substantive conversation with you or somebody on the team, what is the website or the best way to get a hold of you?
It's Verusen.com, Verusen.com. And, we're right on 6th Street in Tech Square in Midtown, Atlanta, is the headquarters of the company.
All right, Scott. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Lee, thank you for the opportunity.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.